going on, everybody? Happy Monday. Welcome to another edition here of Mean Streets on our FTN Network YouTube page. Chris Meany hanging out with you. Always appreciate you guys taking the time to hang out here with me today on YouTube, on iTunes, or Spotify. Always appreciate it. We have not one but two Monday Night Football games happening this evening. The NFC South, Carolina making their home debut. Keep pounding. Bryce Young and company taking on the New Orleans Saints. 3-point favorites, the Saints, a total of 39.5. We have the exact same total in the AFC North battle between the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. That game happening in Pitt. There's a couple injury concerns on both sides in that game. Diontae Johnson looking like he is doubtful, be shocked, was probably already ruled out of this game. And Amari Cooper also would be shocked if he does indeed suit up tonight. So we have to have a couple backup plans. I'm sure you have planned accordingly heading into yesterday with those two Monday Night Football games. We'll talk about a couple players, rank a few guys that could be hanging around the waiver wire because you cannot be taking zeros. I'd love to know what you guys need to wrap up the week. Hopefully we can finish strong here. We got some picks and some props in those two games. We're going to talk about the weekly target leaders, opportunity leaders, snap counts, touches, all that good stuff. Some takeaways from week 2 from a real life NFL standpoint and from a fantasy football and betting standpoint as well. We also have a couple MLB picks and props towards the end of this show in just a little bit. So the mic is off here. George has helped me out. Yeah, it does.
This should be better now. How's that, George? Probably a little bit better. Locked in. That's why I don't know where I'd be without my guy, George. So appreciate you. We got some nice graphics in a little bit. And as I mentioned, we got some MLB picks as well. Some props towards the end of the show. Free betting article over at ftnbets.com for myself. But I'm going to give you those plays for free. So now that we got the mic sorted out, we're going to get after last night. Actually, you know what? Pretty good stuff from the – I want to give props to Mike Randall and Abby Labar. The betting show has been perfect. To start. We are live, Deesh. We're in the house. We're live here. A little bit late today on this Monday, but we are officially live and on our way. The betting show has been great. I feel like the props that I gave on this show weren't fantastic, and I really hope that you guys are subbed with us because we did have a great day. The entire crew over at ftnbets.com, a much better week 2 than a week 1. Week 1, no excuses. We hold ourselves accountable, but it's week 1. There's always craziness that happens. A lot of close games yesterday, a lot of fun football and better performances all over the place from quarterbacks, wide receivers that didn't show up in week 1, running backs that didn't show up in week 1. Not a lot of significant injuries. Chase Edmonds, 4 to 6 weeks. David Montgomery is sidelined here. Looks like a couple weeks with a thigh injury. We'll get into what all of that means in just a little bit. Deesh, welcome in. Daily Handle, welcome in. But a much better betting day. The betting show itself, last week 3-0, this week 2-0, waiting on the Saints, have them on the spread at -3. Randall coming in with the under on A.J. Brown, the Baltimore spread, Abby Labar with the Dolphins, and also T.J. Hawkinson. So it was basically a perfect week and really pretty much a perfect show to start the show over there. So pretty happy about that. Like Puka Nacua over 4.5 grabs plus money, 48 receiving yards. Had a lot of fun with Puka props, and Kerwin Williams over 2.5 grabs plus money as well. So hopefully some green screens like we saw in our FTN Discord channel, and hopefully that continues here tonight. So just hang on if you're looking for some bets. We're going to preview the 2 Monday Night Football games with some picks and some props, and we got some MLB stuff towards the end of the show. So before we get into the touches and targets leaders and some waiver wire rankings at the running back and wide receiver position, we can look ahead at week 3, quarterback stream, defense stream. What are we doing with Joe Burrow? We're going to continue to roll this guy out. He may not even suit up this coming week as well. So before we get going with some of that fantasy waiver wire stuff, I do want to just, and I know you guys are already aware of some of the scores, but this will help me roll through. I give you guys a little bit of a visual here as well. That's actually from the before we got going. So here's the scores, and we'll just kind of roll through this. I get some snap count stuff as well. So we'll start top left. Another dud game really from Joe Burrow, but T. Higgins, 8. T. Higgins got some targets, got some touchdowns. It was really nice to see Jamar Chase had, it wasn't really a drop in the end zone, but, it was a tough pass for him to haul in. He didn't get it, but Baltimore gets it done. Zay Flowers with a low 3.5 catch prop and 40 some odd receiving yard prop, and we cruised past. We got that one pretty easily as well. I was hesitant to jump on the 4.5 T Higgins at -145. Should have did it. I figured he was going to get some looks there from Joe, but a 27-24 win. We did have Baltimore 3.5 here. We are concerned about Joe Burrow. We are definitely concerned about Joe moving forward here, but I wanted to talk about the Baltimore backfield. Odell Beckham Jr. is dealing with an ankle injury. It doesn't sound like it's too serious. I'm not crazy about OBJ. I'm not crazy about Rashad Bateman. If OBJ missed some time, we could see some Rashad Bateman. We saw Nelson Aguilar get a touchdown in the end zone. It really is Zay Flowers. 77% of the snaps, which is really what you want to see from a rookie wide receiver and just playing his second game. So it's positive. Would not sell high on Zay Flowers. He was our favorite Baltimore wide receiver to draft. If you have him, you're on your way. But Justice Hill, 57% of the snaps. Gus Edwards, 43% of the snaps. Justice Hill, I said it on the Sirius show that he does have the higher ceiling because he can catch some passes, but I do believe Gus Edwards is that goal line back. Now, we have seen Justice Hill punch a couple in for a score, and we have seen Gus Edwards punch a couple in. One was a 2-point conversion last week, and then this week he found the end zone. But I feel like when Baltimore puts Gus Edwards on the field, they're kind of tipping their hand. Like, he's not going to catch any balls out of the backfield, where Justice Hill had 3 targets, 3 grabs, only 12 receiving yards, but Gus Edwards, 0 in that department. He had 10 carries, 62 yards, and the score, as I mentioned, in Justice Hill, 11 for 41. Lamar Jackson, 12 for 54. This is going to be a straight-on committee. No Melvin Gordon. He was active. He's kind of like, I have him in deeper formats, like 14-team leagues, Dynasty, just deeper in case anything happened to Gus or Justice Hill, and they decide to give some love to Melvin Gordon. It's not somebody that I think you need to hang on to in 12-team leagues. It's a deep league thing and kind of next man up, and probably more suited for a bell cow role than any of the other guys in there, in Hill and Edwards. But we're concerned certainly about Joe Burrow. You just got to keep rolling him out. I think, what are you going to do? Like, Anthony Richardson is a guy, I suppose I would play over him, dealing with the concussion if he does suit up. But what I will say about Burrow is a couple things. Clearly, he's not 100%. He's dealing with that calf strain. He talked about it after the game. My guy, Paul Daniel Jr. from The Athletic, says Burrow's going to have to see how his calf feels over the next couple of days, but the quarterback indicated that he plans to play this week. So 2 tough spots right away, right? Divisional games at Cleveland, sloppy weather, home to the Ravens, and now he's got the Rams, Titans, Arizona, and Seattle. So he's got some pretty decent matchups coming up, especially Tennessee and Arizona. You hope that he gets right. It's really tough to sit Joe Burrow because of his ceiling and what he can do. I have him in a couple spots. I'm just going to continue to roll him out. The Colts and the Texans, man, completely wrong about Zach Moss. Not that I like Deion Jackson, a big 0 from Deion Jackson, but this was all Zach Moss. Man, Anthony Richardson was on his way. I felt like that was a bad beat. We had over 38.5 rushing yards for him. He was at 35 with 2 rushing scores in the first quarter before leaving with a concussion. And, he suffered a big hit towards the end of week 1, and then he fell on his head at the end of week 2. But, man, he's top 10 quarterback. We talked about it. Top 10 quarterback. He can be a brutal passer, and he's still going to be a top 10 quarterback because of what he can do with his legs. So 3 rushing touchdowns in 5 quarters is very impressive. We'll see if he is ready to go at the end of this week. But how about Zach Moss? I mean, 98% of the snaps. It was all his backfield. We talked about him as a pickup last week, after some of these hot waiver wire pickups like the Baltimore guys and Joshua Kelly and Kerwin Williams. He's still out there, owned in fewer than 60% of leagues. I wouldn't be spending too much fab on him. Like, he is a guy that can help you out if you're in a pinch over these next couple of weeks. Maybe you're a Montgomery owner. You're still waiting on Alvin Kamara. Maybe you own one of those 2 Jets backs that can't get any touches. So, 18 carries, 88 yards, and a touchdown, 4 targets, 4 grabs, and 19 receiving yards. That is significant. But again, would not be spending a lot of fab on this guy because Jonathan Taylor is going to return, I do believe, at some point. And then what are we doing with Zach Moss? But that was the big takeaway for me. We get into the Texans wide receiver in just a little bit. But Tank Dell, a.k.a. Nathaniel Dell, 79% of the snaps. Nico Collins, our guy, popped off as well at 62%. Robert Woods led the way with 86% of the snaps. But C.J. Stroud had a pretty good day. I know a lot of yards came in garbage time, but a pretty solid day from him. And those 3 wide receivers They all got a lot of work. So it was really positive to see there. Kansas City and Jacksonville, I don't really have too much to say here. MBS always leads the team in snaps, 82%. Sky Moore, most dropped wide receiver in ESPN leagues last week. We told you that was a mistake. He had 70 yards and a touchdown. Only played 58% of the snaps. It was good. Tony caught about 5 passes. Only played roughly 30% of the snaps, and Rashee Rice was sub 30% as well. Sky Moore, right? We can't overreact. We can't panic. He's going to go from the most dropped to the most added. It's just really the way it is. Bills and Raiders, not a whole lot to say here. We did see Damian Harris and Latavius Murray have rushing touchdowns. Josh Allen bounced back. We had the over 1.5 passing touchdowns at minus 150. Drank a little bit of the juice there, but we expected a bit of a bounce back spot there. We did see James Cook lead the way in snaps, which was great to see. 59%, Harris 18%, Latavius 23%. I still think that there's a higher ceiling with Damian than Latavius if you're looking for that next man up kind of goal line situation. We are seeing that with James Cook. He's kind of running between the 20s, and those other guys are getting some goal line carries in there. 49ers and Rams, Puka Nacua, my goodness, this guy set an NFL record. He's got 25 grabs over the first 2 games of his career. That's unbelievable to start his career. I would not sell high. This guy is man, he's really good, right? He's a lot better than I thought he was going to be. Yeah, we talked about him as one of our favorite late round flyers. We didn't play him last week. We definitely played him this weekend, even in a tough spot against San Fran. He finds a way to get open all the time. He kind of does remind me of Cooper Kupp. Like, he is a great rep runner mixed in with Matthew Stafford, who's, leaning on guys. And say what you want about Stafford, but man, when he locks in on a guy, whether it's Cooper Kupp, Calvin Johnson, who is the guy in Detroit with him? And he also went to Seattle after that, and he was good with Russ. I'm forgetting the name right now, but man, Matthew Stafford is playing really good football. The offensive line still have some concerns, and Sean McVay is a really good play caller. So it's all kind of working out. I wouldn't sell high. Again, Tutu Atwell's probably the guy that I would sell high, because Cooper Kupp is going to come back, and he's just not going to get that many targets. In terms of snaps, Tutu played almost 100% of the snaps, 94%. It is amazing. And Nacua at 86%, Van Jefferson at 82%. Nakua's probably taken more shots over the past couple weeks than he has in the past 2 years, right? When you're getting that many targets and you're getting hit nonstop, and he was questionable heading into that game. He was on the sidelines a couple times after like 3 or 4 grabs in a row. He's on the sidelines. You can see him in a lot of pain, but he is battling. He is pulling through. He looks like a player, man, a potential league winner here. I would make him available. I have made him available. This is not tooting my own horn. I have a lot of shares of Puka Nacua. I am making him available in redraft leagues just to see what I could get. Maybe I need some running back help, wide receiver help. Just want to see and I think that's just smart football. To see what you can get. Make guys available. You just never know what the offer could be. Look, we saw what we talked about on SiriusXM on Saturday, the FTN Fantasy Show, every Saturday from 9 to 11, channel 87 on SiriusXM. The trades, and these are some trades that happened after DeAndre Swift popped off on Thursday. DeAndre Swift straight up for Jalen Waddle. DeAndre Swift straight up for Travis Kelce. DeAndre Swift and Elijah Moore for Jalen Waddle and Dave Montgomery. Now that one one's not so good with Montgomery sideline. There was another one too. It was, I forget now, it was a 6-player deal, but Nick Chubb and George Pickens headed the other way. DeAndre Swift and, man, I really forget. Andy Behrens had tweeted it out. I think I actually have it written down. Here it is. Swift, Pittman, and Mooney for Zeke, Chubb, and Pickens. Like, Chubb is the best player in that deal. Pittman and Swift, the owner's getting Pittman and Swift, and that's nice. Zeke is whatever, kind of next man up. But getting a guy like Nick Chubb for DeAndre Swift, right? If you can get the best player in the deal, you just never know. Some of these trades you would think like, that's never going to happen in my league, and it may not happen in your league. But I've seen some crazy things and some crazy trades. So why wouldn't you make a guy like Puka Nacua available? But my goodness, he looks like a player, and we cashed in yesterday in a big way in terms of some prop bets from Puka Nacua. Kerwin Williams. I don't know what's going on with Cam Akers. My goodness, it's like the same thing this time last year. Cam Akers. This is really tough pill to swallow if you're an Akers owner, inactive, healthy scratch, rumors about being traded on the trade block. Like, here we go again. Like, what happened? What's the relationship like between McVay and Cam Akers. I know he wasn't official last week, but just straight up healthy and inactive, healthy scratch. And it seemed like the right call, didn't it? Because Kerwin Williams was unbelievable yesterday. He had 10 targets. He had a receiving touchdown. Stafford was another guy we had at plus money at over 2.5 catches. Man, I wish I would have laddered him or something like that. But I got the snap count here. He played 95% of the snaps, 95, and he looked good, right? The Rams actually looked pretty good yesterday against the Niners. They moved the ball well. The Niners kind of held their own towards the end of that game, but good stuff from Kerwin Williams and Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell. Again, Tutu's the guy that I think I would sell high because I just don't know what his volume is like when you have Cooper Kupp, right? So are people even starting Tutu Atwell? You picked him up off the waiver wire. Did you really feel confident starting him yesterday? I would look to sell him for sure. Seattle and Detroit, tough sledding there for Dave Montgomery. He was getting a lot of the work again on the ground, had a rushing touchdown, a goal line touchdown there. But unfortunately, he's going to miss the next couple of weeks. Gibbs played 48% of the snaps, had a bunch of targets, but now it's his backfield. Craig Reynolds there in deeper formats is the next man up. But even if Gibbs went down, I don't think we'd be too excited about Craig Reynolds there. I do want to give some love to Joshua Reynolds in a little bit. We'll talk about him here soon. Seattle pulled it off 37-31 with their left tackle and right tackle sideline. Not an efficient day for Kenneth Walker, but he does find the end zone twice. DK Metcalf left and came back, but Tyler Lockett had the 2 scores there, and Geno got it done. A good game from Geno Smith, came all the way back and won the football game. Actually, it was Detroit who came back, but the Lions were up a couple scores early, midway through that game, but Seattle finds a way to win it in overtime. Tampa and Chicago, we didn't have to sweat this one out at all. We had the Bucks on the money line. I think 2 units. We also had them to win by 3 at plus 100. Mike Evans, I know it's the Bears, but hey, Mike Evans, 2 games now with Baker, a couple touchdowns. Rashad White had a nice bounce back game, played 72% of the snaps. Chase Edmonds got hurt. Tucker is that next man up, played 24% of the snaps, but back-to-back weeks now with Rashad White cashing in on his rushing attempt prop, and Baker looks okay. DJ Moore, big game from him, right over 100 yards, the over 3.5 cash pretty early. The first 2 plays of the game were to DJ Moore. In fact, the first one was like a 52-yard reception. And, I heard DJ Moore paraphrasing here, but saying, telling Fields basically in the offense to lean on him and he can help him out. And that's something that he certainly can do. Chase Claypool had a touchdown or a big block. I think he had a couple nice moments in that game because it looked like he was in the doghouse after week 1. It's not a lot of Bears that you can trust. Nice to see. I mean, maybe not nice for Diontae Foreman, truthers, or Foreman himself. He was inactive. So that 3-headed monster is now turned into a 2-headed monster. It was still Khalil Herbert leading the way in terms of snaps. He played 60%, Rashawn Johnson 42%, but we've been big on Rashawn Johnson here. I know I'm getting a lot of flack on Twitter from people that I'm calling him a potential league winner. People need to stop it. Like, it's week 2. Like, I think he is trending up. We're not saying to start him. We're saying to pick him up, grab him, get involved with his props over 5.5 receiving yards, over 30.5 rushing yards. Like, he hit both of those. He looked good. He had some nice runs. Khalil Herbert is still the lead. But this is turning into almost 50-50 here. With Foreman on the sidelines, this is much better for you. Herbert truthers out there and Rashawn Johnson as well. Justin Fields needs to get better. I mean, he's got a lot to do to improve. That's for sure. But I thought it was it's been a good couple weeks for Rashawn Johnson, getting involved and getting more reps and Diontae Foreman being a sideline there. So make sure you own him. We're not saying to start him. A lot of people are wondering, like, do I start him over this guy? Do I drop Deion Jackson for him? Yes. Do I drop Brian Robinson Jr. for him? No. Do I start him over Brian Robinson? No. You don't need to start him, but I think you need to pick him up because he looks really good. I will say that. And garbage time this, garbage time that. The Bears are awful. So, there's going to be some targets for him in the future. The Packers and the Falcons, it was an entertaining game, pretty sloppy, I think, on both sides of the football. No Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon he didn't look good. Right? He just played a lot of snaps, but did not look good. Romeo Doubs didn't do a whole lot there. We did see a better game from Drake London, right? On Jair Alexander got some targets, had a touchdown in there. Good stuff from Bijan Robinson, 82% of the snaps. Tyler Algier, 44% of the snaps. It's what we like to see. And for those that drafted Bijan in the first round, that's exactly what you like to see. He was catching balls out of the backfield. His receiving yard prop, rushing yard prop, reception yard prop hit as well. Chargers and Titans. Chargers find a way to blow that game late. good, game from Mike Williams and Keenan Allen, of course, right? Joshua Kelly, not so much. We talked about him. He's going to get an opportunity, but the matchup is really tough. It's a really tough team to run on. What I will say is Tajay Spears is another guy that's getting some run. Like Derrick Henry in the past, we've seen him play 85, 90% of the snaps, just 71% of the snaps yesterday. Tajay Spears, 37%, getting some looks out of the backfield, some targets and things like that. I think he just looks like a good back. And Mike Vrabel wants to, get him some run and maybe keep Henry fresh. And I don't think that's, I think that's kind of smart, right? It's not too bad. Tannehill had a rushing touchdown in there. Hopkins had some moments. Treylon Burks had a catch, but he's not doing a whole lot there, playing behind Westbrook-Ikini. Giants and Cardinals. It was looking like just another dud performance from the Giants. They were down 21-0, I do believe. The Giants come back 31-28. Final there. Daniel Jones is your QB1 for the week. Saquon Barkley dealing with a potential ankle sprain. Could miss a week or two. We'll see what happens there. Isaiah Hodgins, receiving yard prop, we hit, and he had a touchdown. Darryl Waller had a decent day. It was a much better second half for the Giants. My goodness, if they would have lost that, it would have just been like, it would have been really bad in New York. Fire everybody. But they found a way to get it done. James Conner as well. Big day from James Conner. Hollywood Brown had a receiving touchdown. And Zach Ertz getting some looks in there as well. Commanders and Broncos. This is one we were on the right side of. Washington at +3.5. Brian Robinson Jr. got it done. Russell Wilson, from a fantasy standpoint, had a pretty good day. He finishes as quarterback 2. Of course, you still have 4 quarterbacks going this evening. Russ, it was the play at the end of the game. Russell Wilson airs it out. Hail Mary there was tipped like 3 or 4 different times and, lands in a Denver Broncos hands, wide receivers' hands, and then they go for 2 and they can't get it. That's how things have been going in Denver since Russ was acquired from Seattle. Marvin Mims had over 100 yards, 2 catches, but he didn't really play a lot of snaps. I got it down here. I think he played like sub 20% of the snaps. 24% of the snaps. Judy, not a whole lot there, right? First game back. Cortland Sutton. The Broncos are trash. They're just not a good football team, right? I mean, Peyton is not going to be able to fix Russ. It's going to be a long year in Denver again. 2 home games where they're favored by over 3 points. 3.5. We were on Las Vegas +3.5. They won on the money line. Yesterday, we were on Washington +3.5. They won on the money line. Nice comeback game. Brian Robinson Jr., 2 scores, looked good. Terry McLaurin had a touchdown there. A little bit more from Dotson. Wanted to see more from him early on. Again, 2 weeks in a row, getting some looks in the first half of games and then pretty quiet in the second half of games. That one we did get wrong. We had over 3.5 receptions. He was stuck on 3. Antonio Gibson is an afterthought. People just want Gibson to be great. I think he's a good player, but he's just not he's not your prototypical running back. He's a wide receiver converted running back now. Like, he's lining up all over the field. There'll be some games where Washington has some tougher opponents. They're 2-0, and maybe they're down a couple scores. He'll get in there and catch some passes. But Brian Robinson Jr. has been getting some targets in preseason and throughout the first 2 weeks as well. So I wouldn't hold my breath. Gibson's a guy I'd move on from. What else do we have here? Saints and Panthers tonight, Browns and Steelers tonight, Dolphins and Patriots. Some moments there. Devontae Parker played 100% of the snaps. Yeah, that's right. Devontae Parker, 100% of the snaps. Really cut into our Kendrick Bourne shares. 51% of the snaps, 9 targets for Kendrick Bourne, but Mac Jones was not accurate really at all last night. Juju had some moments, but really, really small ceiling there with Juju Smith-Schuster. Played 60% of the snaps. Hunter Henry back-to-back weeks with a touchdown. Hunter Henry's a good tight end. I mean, nobody wants to rank him as a top 12 guy, but it's back-to-back weeks now. He just gets red zone looks, and what more can you ask for your tight end? Get a couple red zone looks there. On the Miami side of things, Waddle and Hill not as explosive. Hill especially, we kind of saw that coming with Bill Belichick. He's going to take away the opposing team's best player every single week. Ramondre Stevenson in there getting some catches. Needed 1 more for him. Over 3.5 did not hit. He was stuck on 3, but he had a rushing touchdown. Zeke didn't do anything really. And last week he had the 5 targets, and those targets came early. And we said that it was an outlier, and it definitely was an outlier. It's Ramondre Stevenson's backfield. He played over 75% of the snaps, which is exactly what you want to see there. And also Raheem Mostert had a pretty good game. A couple scores there for Mostert. Jets and Cowboys, it was a tough game to watch. I know Breece Hall had 4 carries, and then after the game he tweeted 4 footballs. Sauce Gardner deactivated his Twitter account. I mean, it's not great in New York, right? Zach Wilson's, he's just not the guy. That's why they went out and they got Aaron Rodgers. And it's going to be tough. I mean, Garrett Wilson had a touchdown. I had a lot of questions about Garrett Wilson. I just think you start this guy. If you're in an 18-team league, I could see myself maybe not starting him. You only start 2 wide receivers. He's always going to be ranked roughly 15 to 17 for me as a wide receiver too. He doesn't have the same type of ceiling, right? It's not Aaron Rodgers. You're not going to be able to get I don't even know if we'll get the 7.5. He does have 2 touchdowns in 2 games. A nice, catch and run for the touchdown. But the play is just so poor. The quarterback play, he's going to get his targets, but it's just not the same ceiling anymore. I have a lot of shares of him. I haven't moved on from him. I'm just going to play him every week, and it kind of is what it is. The ceiling, like I said, is he's not a wide receiver 1 anymore. He's probably a low end wide receiver 2, but he's good with the ball in his hands, and there's going to be moments where Zach really does lean on him. I wouldn't start any other Jet. Like, I'm not starting Breece Hall. Like, he played 11 snaps in week 1. He hardly played yesterday. Dalvin hardly played. Tough matchup against Dallas. I can't see this team really moving the ball that well. Conklin's playing a lot of snaps, getting targets. We're not holding Allen Lazard. It's going to be tough, man, for the Jets to score a lot of points. And I think as we get going into the season, we will see more usage and more work there from maybe Breece Hall. But this is not good. Other snap counts I have here: Connor 72%. I mentioned Herbert at 60%, Samaje 50%, Javonte Williams 45%. I think we're going to see more from Javonte as we get deeper into the season. Kelly did play 79% of the snaps, didn't do a whole lot. Yeah, it was Dalvin Cook with 36%, Breece Hall with 34%, and Michael Carter with 32%. Kenneth Walker had 61%, Zach Charbonnet at 25%, and Bijan Robinson at 52%, and Gibson at 48%, but it was really all Bijan there. We like to see that. Other guys here: Josh Reynolds, 80% of the snaps. Christian Kirk, nice bounce back game, 81%, 0 from Zay Jones. So basically flip-flop. I think these guys will kind of take turns flip-flopping like that. If anybody panicked, overreacted on Christian Kirk, dropping him, I would pick him up. I know he was a fade for me on draft day, and I wasn't into starting him yesterday. That was a big L on my part, but he should be rostered. It is a really good offense. They're going to have some moments. And Calvin Ridley, he ran into the goalpost. It looked pretty bad. I know he left. It was late in the game. He left with a knee injury. I think he's going to be fine. He didn't have a great game, but I think Zay definitely has a higher ceiling than Zay Jones. Like, if I had the choice between one of the two, it would be Christian Kirk, but there will be some inconsistency there. Sky Moore, 58% of the snaps, but had the bounce back game. MVS, 82% of the snaps. I think I already went over this. Yeah, Tutu at 92. Quentin Johnson at 15%. It's really tough to hold him. There may be a time where he's getting some run if Mike Williams and Keenan Allen can't stay healthy, but at this point, it is really a tough hold. How about Renfro at 65% of the snaps? No Jacoby Myers, but still only one catch in the first 2 weeks for Hunter Renfro. He's one of the better route runners in the NFL. I'm surprised. I don't know what's going on there. I think they need to move on and maybe trade him. We had Slayton at 82% of the snaps, Hodgins at 75, and Paris Campbell at 66. Hodgins is my favorite Giant to own. It was actually Jalen Hyatt who kind of got them going with a big catch there in the second half of the game, but just 2 grabs. Deep league stash, but nothing there too crazy. All right, so we'll take a look at some comments here, and then we'll get into some waiver wire stuff. We got some touches and targets, and then I got some picks, and we'll get out of here. Leaving in the house 4 days late. Actually played Swift. Go Sharks. Yes, go Sharks. Hockey season October 10th, San Jose. I think the offense may be okay. I think it's some decent pieces there. They made some moves. Of course, no Carlson. Khalil Herbert, P. Ryan, and Gibson hold, even flex worthy for the first 2 guys for sure. Gibson, no. Herbert, yes. I mean, very disappointing first couple weeks, but again, Diontae Foreman being sidelined does help clear this up just a touch. I like Rashawn Johnson the rest of the way. I think he's going to overtake it, but I don't know. People think I'm crazy about that. P. Ryan again, he led in snaps. I'm pretty sure he caught a bunch of passes again yesterday. So they're worthy of holds. Gibson's not. I don't believe he is. Herbert and P. Ryan are worthy of holds, but they're probably not worthy of getting even in your flex spot right now. But we're going to get into bye weeks and injuries are going to happen. Cooper Kupp, I don't know. Could be 5-6 weeks. Could be a little bit longer than that. I'm just speculating at this point. I think he will be eligible, come week 5, but not great. Good afternoon. Brzis in the house. FTN Degenerates. What a Sunday. Woohoo. 2 games tonight. Yeah, I thought it was a good day, right? I thought it was a really good day in terms of betting. I thought so anyways. Sat. Okay. For Kelly. Yeah, that's tough. DGM there. I mean, Kelly had those touches. He had the snaps. Volume is king. It's opportunity, but it's something I think we can maybe take away is that the Titans, right? It's really tough to run on that team. And, they allowed the most passing yards last year per game. And the secondary is banged up a bit. I think we just moving forward, we may have to just fade the average running backs, like low end RB2s or flex plays against them as well. Heartbreak. Yeah. Also played Russ, my 2 quarterback league. I'm going to lose it because of Hail Mary. You played. Yeah. I would sell high on Russ after that day. Dylan in the house. Kicker question. Okay. Which kicker do you like best tonight? Tough spot. Down exactly 11.36 full PPR. I have Michael Thomas and a kicker left. Opponent still has Freiermuth. Oh man. What kicker? I would probably lean. I think the high scoring team tonight will be the Saints. I mean, I can take a look at my kicker rankings. I mean, you're here asking kicker questions, but I'm not going to pull a Jake Seeley and tell you to get lost. I will show you the kicker rankings. I do believe I have. There's not a lot of kicker rankings. Not everybody's ranking kickers over at ftnfantasy.com, but I do believe I got grouped there. Yes, Mr. Blake first. I would go with him. Dylan's getting a good kick. I'm here for it. You're getting a good kick out of this. I'm here to help the people out, man. I want you to win. I think you're going to win. Kicker, it doesn't matter what kicker. I think you're going to win. Michael Thomas is going to outscore Pat Freiermuth here tonight. I really like Michael Thomas scored a touchdown tonight. He had 4 red zone targets in week 1. One of those throws from Russ or from Carr was awful. So I would go with Blake, Saints. That's how I would rank it first. And then I would probably Boswell is a guy that sometimes the Saints or the Steelers, they go for 2 and it kind of like messes you up a little bit. Panero, I wouldn't do. I don't expect Carolina to do a whole lot here offensively. I think I'll go with the Saints kicker. If he's available to you, I don't know who you have at the moment, but I would rank him. And then I would probably go Cleveland next. So good luck. Hi, Chris. Watson next week, maybe. I don't know, man. I don't know. Nico Collins. Nico Collins is our guy. Wait, there's one thing we can get right here. One thing we can get right. I don't know, man. Watson, he did return to practice in a limited fashion on Friday. I think that was a positive sign. I think it was first practice in a couple weeks. Let's hope Watson doesn't burn us again and win a lot of consolation brackets last year because of that dude. Appreciate you. Just subscribed and dropped a like. We'll tune in more often, fam. Love that. Dylan, welcome in. We'll help you anytime you have a question. We could use all the likes and subs that we can get here over at FTN. All right, we're going to continue on here. We got, I just want to quickly show this. I always do this like touches and targets kind of deal. There's a waiver wire stuff, little sneak peek. We'll hang on to that one for a second. Tony Pollard, your opportunity leaders. This is carries and targets. So Pollard at 33, DeAndre Swift at 31. I mean, to be silly, Jake is in on selling DeAndre Swift. Like, if you need running back help, you keep DeAndre Swift and you ride this out. He definitely has the highest ceiling of the 4. Boston Scott is dealing with a concussion. Kenneth Gainwell is dealing with a rib injury. They have the Bucks, which is a tough run defense. I still believe that they are a tough defense to run on. It's clear that the Eagles don't care one bit about Rashad Penny. Like, he touched the field at the end of that game. It was because Swift called for help and needed to come out for a breather. That's the only reason he got out there. The offensive line of Philly is the best. It really is. I mean, 7 yards per pop in the second half, 16 carries in the second half for DeAndre Swift. The guy topped 16 carries in one of his first 41 NFL games before last Thursday night. His career high was 33 carries. And he needed 10 minutes of overtime to get there. So hang on to him. Like, who are you trading him for? Right? I can't even think of running backs that, can you get Najee Harris for him? Do you want to? We'll see what happens with Najee tonight. There's something to be said about just hanging on to these running backs. But if you can get a guy like Jalen Waddle, a package with Nick Chubb or Travis Kelce, then I guess you do that. Even Derrick Henry playing 70% of the snaps, still an opportunity beast at 29. James Conner, nobody wants him. Nobody wanted to draft and plays for the Cardinals. I get it. I understand it. I was in on his catch prop in a big way, and he had nothing. I just thought the Giants would be up in that game and they'd be playing from behind, which just wasn't the case. But James Conner was big on the ground, over 100 yards, 5 grabs in week 1. He's going to get he's always going to be on this list. Bijan Robinson, we talked about that. Really nice to see him, 80% of the snaps, and Tyler Algier, like roughly 40%, but Algier still getting some red zone touches, which really bothers me. Saquon Barkley at 24, Kerwin Williams, big day, 24, Christian McCaffrey. Why was Christian McCaffrey's rushing yard prop at 65.5? Man, books were sleeping on that. He topped it in the first quarter. Rachaad White, our guy, still not super efficient, but a nice bounce back game from him. Had some catches of red zone rushing attempt. This is his backfield, and it was really nice to see the usage. And then Zach Moss in there as well. How about the target leaders? Puka Nacua again. Are you kidding me with this guy? Man, this is awesome. He's been my go-to guy in terms of some props, and we're having some fun with some props for him. But through 2 games, I never, ever would have imagined this. Like, I looked at my best ball teams and seeing, the shares and that I have from him. I never, ever would have imagined 35 targets, 25 grabs, 266 receiving yards in 2 games for Puka Nacua. I would not sell, as I said, but make him available and see what you can get just to see. Christian Kirk, 14 targets, 11 grabs, $110. Mike Williams against those leaky Titans, 13 targets, 8 grabs, 83 receiving yards. CeeDee Lamb, nice little bounce back game, 13-11 and $143. Justin Jefferson, 13-11 and $159. Michael Pittman Jr., 2 good games in a row. Anthony Richardson left early, but I do believe that Gardner Minshew was better for Michael Pittman, but I want to see Richardson in there. 12 targets, 8 grabs, 56 yards. T. Higgins bounced back, 12 targets, 8 grabs, 89 and 2 touchdowns. Hollywood Brown, 10, 6, 54, and 1. Kerwin Williams, a running back on this list, 10 targets, 6 grabs, 48. And of course, we just saw that he was inside the top 10 in terms of opportunities. Tyler Lockett, 2 scores, 10 targets, 8 grabs, 59 receiving yards. The other Chargers wide receiver took advantage of that secondary in Tennessee, 10, 8, $111 and 2 touchdowns. How about Tank Dell, 10, 7, 72 and 1. Robert Woods had himself a decent day in terms of targets, but we did say, why would you take Robert Woods with your last pick when you could take a guy like Tank Dell? And Nico Collins absolutely ate as well. Tutu Atwell on this list, 9, 7, and 77. Any questions here? Oh, yeah. Tank Dell is cool as well. Absolutely. Love that. Welcome to the fam. Meaning won't steer you wrong. I appreciate you, Eberzies. I really do appreciate you there. Not needed, but we are here to help the people from a fantasy and a betting standpoint and create a distraction there, Dylan. Welcome in. Hey, should I trade Amari Cooper and Swift for Ridley? Ooh. These questions are great. I will answer these questions all the time. I would love a little bit of context. And what I mean by that is, to properly answer this question, I need to know who else is on your team. I really need to know who else is on your squad. I need to know your other running backs. Part of me says no, because Ridley is definitely the best player in that deal. And you may be able to buy Ridley low after this past week, right? People may be thinking that that's a fluky week 1 and a buy low opportunity. I will be checking in. I have a lot of shares of Ridley. I also believe Amari Cooper is a buy low candidate. Now, he's not going to play tonight, and nobody's really going to want this guy. I need to know the rest of your squad to kind of help it out here. What do we got here? We got advice from smart people on the show. Wooden, Cooper dinged up, but we'll get healthy. Swift dual threat, rushing, receiving, plus high scoring team. He won't accept Swift. Kidding means. Yeah, I feel like I would keep the Cooper and Swift side. I think, it's really tough to find running back help at times. There's injuries, there's dud performances. You have a running back linked to arguably the best offense in football, a team that wants to run the football behind a really good O-line. So I would hang on there. But, if what I would say is, if you are already set at the running back position and Swift is maybe your RB4, I don't know, that's possible. Maybe he is your RB4. Maybe you picked up Kerwin Williams, want to roll with him. You could do something like that, but I think you're giving up a little bit much. I think Amari's a nice little buy low candidate there. But if you want to let me know what else you got, and we can take a look. Man, StreamYard, I see it getting sloppy again. Okay, waiver wire stuff here, 40-minute mark. Gonna jot this down for the timestamps, and we will talk some waiver wire stuff here. So let's get into, there's really not a lot. There's not a lot. It's kind of the same sort of deal at the running back position, but I wanted to show you guys what I think is the top 10 running backs available under 6% ownership in Yahoo. Now, if you need starts this week, you need somebody immediately. You got, I don't know, Saquon went down, David Montgomery, you need to start this week. Zach Moss would be at number 1. The reason I have him at number 2 is I'm thinking long-term here. I'm thinking big picture down the stretch of the season into the fantasy football playoffs. I do think Jonathan Taylor will be on the squad. I think he's going to be with the Colts. So what does that mean for Zach Moss? Like, probably nothing great. So that's why I have Rashawn Johnson. It's a patient play here. We talked about him as a deep league flyer, heading into this season. I think he should be rostered, and the fact that Diontae Foreman is sidelined here is good news, I think, for Herbert as well, and Rashawn Johnson. So that's why I have him up at the top. I still think this Baltimore backfield will be just a full-on committee, a little bit of a mess. Gus Edwards is at 63%. He'd be on this list. I think Justice Hill, as I said earlier, those that are just checking in, I think Justice Hill has the higher ceiling of the two because he's the guy that's going to get some targets. But Gus is, I do believe, the goal line back inside that offense. Tajay Spears, again, a good preseason, getting more, playing more snaps in the first couple weeks than I thought he would. Jalen Warren, 5 grabs last week. I think this is going to be like a 60-40 type deal. Tough matchup here tonight. I expect him to get a couple catches out of the backfield. These last few backs, like, there's nothing really appealing about any of these guys. Damian Harris, like, you're not going to feel great about starting Warren or Harris or even McKinnon. Tank Bigsby didn't do anything last week, but it's kind of like next man up, deep league stash sort of deal. Rico is getting some run. I do believe he would be the next man up if anything happened to Tony Pollard. Devon Achane played his first NFL game yesterday, only played 10% of the snaps, super fast, but going to play behind Raheem Mostert, and Jeff Wilson's coming back soon as well. So these are just some deep league stuff. I don't think there's anything really significant at the running back position to grab, but it's just kind of like next man up sort of deal and have some guys in case injuries do happen. At the wide receiver position, Sky Moore, I don't feel like he should have been dropped ever. The most dropped wide receiver in ESPN formats. There's going to be inconsistent games from him, just like week 1, week 2, he scores. Nobody played him in week 2. Travis Kelce he was on a pitch count. He did play some snaps. MVS is always going to be on the field, but I do like Sky Moore. He's my favorite KC wide receiver. You are linked to Patrick Mahomes. We'll get into bye weeks and injuries will happen. Tank Dell, man, 5% ownership, I do believe. Nico Collins is at 61%. I don't know what's taken so long for Nico Collins to get picked up, but he would be the highest on this list. I think he was number 1 for us last week. Maybe him and I think it was like Puka Nacua, him and Kendrick Bourne. Josh Reynolds, I want to focus in on Josh Reynolds. It's been back-to-back weeks here where Josh Reynolds has topped his receiving yard prop, and he's got the trust of Jared Goff. These guys date back all the way to their playing time in LA. So for Josh Reynolds, playing nearly 80% of the snaps, which is in fact just at 80% of the snaps, which is something that you really like to see. And even last year, he averaged 67 receiving yards per game over his first 5 games before suffering an injury. And so far this season to start, he scored the touchdown yesterday. He had a red zone rushing attempt, by the way, but he did score 2 touchdowns yesterday. So through 2 games, got 13 targets, 9 grabs, 146 yards. Sam Laporta, a really nice game from him as well. He should be picked up. He's a top 12 tight end, in my opinion. But Josh Reynolds is a sneaky ad. Jared Goff is good at home. He was great at home last year. The home and away splits was significant for him. I know Jameson Williams is coming back soon, and now is the time to maybe pick him up and stash him before you get closer to week 4 and 5 and you can't. But he's not automatically going to be the number 2 in this offense or number 3. I think it's going to be, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Reynolds, Laporta, and then I think Jameson Williams, high ceiling, deep threat guy, is going to have some, boom or bust to his game. But Reynolds is he's built a rapport now it's been a couple years. We've seen this from the Rams days early on last year and early on this year. Tutu Atwell, I think he's a sell high candidate with Cup potentially coming back. Kadarius Toney's on this list. I just think he should be rostered. If you don't want to start him, don't start him. But I think he should be rostered. 5 catches, but didn't play a lot of the snaps. Jaden Reed. I like Jaden Reed over Romeo Doubs. I liked him at the start of the season over Doubs. We hope that Christian Watson can come back soon. Parker's on this list ahead of Kendrick Bourne. Bourne had the 9 targets, but Parker played 100% of the snaps, and he really was the go-to guy there for Mac Jones yesterday. But he hasn't had the clearest track record when it comes to health. So I would view him as a sell high candidate, but I do really like Kendrick Bourne still. Rashid Shaheed, I don't think everything will be as good as last week. The Titans give up a lot of explosive plays. He's still behind Olave and Michael Thomas, but he should be rostered. Isaiah Hodgins is my favorite Giants wide receiver, and then Robert Woods in deeper formats. Let's see, any questions here? I think we got to this. No? Oh, you got some context here like this. Should I trade Amari Cooper and Swift for Ridley? Okay, so here we go. Your other wide receivers are Tyreek, Olave, Puka. So you can afford to move on from Cooper. And your other backs are James Cook, Bijan, Ramondre Stevenson. Okay, so I still don't think I would, man. I still don't think I would do this, Andrew. I like having Swift as the 4th running back. You're going to get into some injuries are going to happen. Unfortunately, James Cook is, he looks good. He's playing a lot of the snaps, but I don't know how much goal line work he's going to get. I think every week you're going to roll those 3 backs out. So I get it. All right. You want to have, if you're looking at week 15, your fantasy football lineup in the playoffs, you're going to have Tyreek, Olave, Puka, Ridley in there. And then, Cook and Bijan and Ramondre. That's a really nice starting lineup. But again, I think I would hold. Cooper and Swift. I'd love to hear what everybody else has to say, but I would hold for those 2 guys. And you hope that Cooper, you honestly, as a Cooper owner, you hope he sits out tonight. You hope he sits out and he gets right. And then he's good to go. He had the best season, arguably, of his career last year. And I don't think he's going to be that far off from Ridley, but Ridley is certainly the best player in that deal. You just subbed. Well, don't unsub if you lose that trade or you decide not to do it and you wish that you did, but I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. Drafted Nico in a few leagues late as the 3rd, 4th wide receiver. Kid's a stud. We love that. We love that as well. Don't get too high on those Lions players. They are Lions after all. Packers guy, right? Shots fired. All right, let's get into tonight. We got some picks and some props here, and then we will officially get out of here. I always like to recap too. This is how the week went. So on the Saints at 3, Baltimore plus 3.5, Washington 3.5, had Tampa on Cleveland tonight, money line, Jacksonville. No good. See you later. But I mean, George did put Trevor Lawrence in the cover. So what can you expect? Didn't get the over between Jacksonville and Kansas City. Did get the Seattle and Detroit. Did not get the under in Washington. We got some parlays here on the line. San Fran, Dallas, New York. Sweated that one out. We got the Saints here for plus 302. And that teaser did in fact hit. So let's see what we can get after tonight. And let's start here with Miles Sanders of the Carolina Panthers. You see the over on his reception at 2.5 at plus 160, 1.5 at Bet365. I had a same game parlay at 1.5 and over 10.5. The 2.5 is a little risky. I would do the full unit on the 10.5 receiving yards, and maybe half a unit on the 2.5 catches at plus 160 here against the Saints. It is a tough run defense. But for Miles Sanders, not only did he pick up 18 carries last week, he hauled in 4 of his 6 targets. You have to go all the way back to 2021 to see the last time Miles Sanders had 4+ grabs in a game, and 2020 to see the last time he had 6+ targets. Let's not forget he had 50 catches in his rookie season. We have Miles Sanders for 16.3 receiving yards in our projection. So the over 10.5 receiving yards at minus 125, that's at PointsBet. And then a little sprinkle on the over 2.5 catches at plus 160. I think the Saints are going to win this game. Bryce Young only had 2 passes over 10 yards in the last game. There's a lot of Hayden Hurst, just kind of rookie quarterback, Frank Reich, trying to put him in situations to succeed. Miles Sanders out of the backfield, lean on Sanders, lean on Chuba Hubbard. I expect a little bit more from Adam Thielen here. DJ Chark is healthy, but I don't think he's going to take a lot of shots down the field. Lean on the back. We could get this garbage time, but it just takes 1 catch here for Miles Sanders to get the 11.5 receiving yards. So that is what we are leading here with. A couple other bets that I had, this is one that we had on Friday, but times have changed because the over on his total yards is now 101.5. We have him for 105 total yards. I would shy away from the rushing and receiving because that number is now gone. We have that in the tracker at 91.5, but I would still jump on this 12 and a half receiving yards for Nick Chubb. I think it's at 13 and a half right now. We've been talking a lot about Nick Chubb all off season, on pace for 50 grabs as a sophomore at the halfway point, right around week 9 or 10 when they brought in Kareem Hunt, and that usage through the air went away. But last week, we had the 4 catches. We hit the catch prop. We hit the receiving yard prop. Week 18 with Deshaun Watson, he had 5 grabs, 40 some odd receiving yards and a receiving touchdown, 21 receiving yards last week. So we've been in on this, all season long. So I would take anything over 14 and a half receiving yards on Chubb. And I'd take a little bit of a sprinkle on the over 2.5 receptions. In fact, I like all the running backs for the reception yard prop. Miles Sanders. I have the over on Jamal Williams here at 1.5 catches at -122. Had 2 catches last week, 25 plus grabs in every single season but one. This is still his backfield. We know Kamara is suspended. Kendra Miller, I don't think is suiting up here. So it's his backfield. Much better matchup. Played the Titans last week, got the Panthers this week. So over 1.5 catches. And then I'm jumping in here a little sprinkle, maybe half a unit. Jaylen Warren at over 2.5 receptions at +165. He had 5 grabs last week. Of course, they were playing from behind, but I think that Cleveland's going to be in Pickett's face here today. No Diontae Johnson. I think we'll see Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren. Harris is at 1.5 grabs. I would lean to the over on that as well, but Jaylen Warren here at 2.5. This is just too low. Adam Thielen at 2.5 catches at -120. He only had the 2 grabs. He was limited. There was an injury there. First game for Bryce Young. 2.5 catches, I just think is very, a very small number. We're not drinking any juice here. It's not like Allen Robinson, 2.5 grabs at like -170. So I am in on that one as well. And then Elijah Moore at 3.5 grabs at +118. He had 3 catches last week, 7 targets, had a couple drops. I don't expect Amari Cooper to play in this game. And I think Elijah is probably in for another 7 targets or so. So I would rank them like this. Miles Sanders, 10.5 receiving yards. Nick Chubb, over 12.5 receiving yards and maybe at 13.5 receiving yards. Next up for me would be Jamal Williams, over 1.5 receptions at -122. And then I would jump on Adam Thielen at over 2.5 receptions at -120. Jaylen Warren at 2.5 receptions at +165. Actually, I don't know if I did that right. Let's regroup. Miles Sanders, receiving yards. Nick Chubb, receiving yards. Elijah Moore, 3.5 catches. Jamal Williams, 1.5 catches. If it's just 4, that's what you do. I like the Browns on the money line. I like the Saints to cover at -3. And then these other guys, just for the people that want a couple extra bets, I'm in on the Thielen and I am in on Jaylen Warren here. So Pickett's got a low reception yard prop at 3.5. We have a lot of edges. I was looking at our projections and props. Like we feel like there's an edge on Olave's receiving yard prop. I think if we're calling some touchdowns here tonight, I think Nick Chubb finds the end zone. We need that one to finish off the touchdown prop parlay that we had with Barkley and CMC at +300. So we want Chubb to find the end zone. If I'm picking a Steeler to have a touchdown here today, it would be Najee Harris near the goal line. But if I wanted to rank these, I would go Chubb and Michael Thomas. I got a feeling about Michael Thomas here. The 4 red zone targets. What do we got for Michael Thomas? I just want to give you guys in our prop shop. We got the free tool link inside the description of this video for the new people that are hanging out. We tend to give a lot of betting picks on this show. I got a couple more baseball on the way out here. Michael Thomas, I'd stay away from some of his other props. Like last week was 3.5, and I like that. 4.5 at +120. I think I would lean to the over, but I'm staying away from that one altogether. But +250 for Michael Thomas to have a touchdown. I'm in on that number. So I would go Chubb, Michael Thomas. No Carolina guys. If I were to pick a Panther, probably would be Hayden Hurst. Hayden Hurst had a pretty decent day in week 1. Bryce certainly leaned on him, not throwing the ball deep down the field, but the Saints have a long history of being really good against tight ends. But if they get inside the red zone and it is a passing play, I would look at Thielen or Hayden Hurst for a touchdown there. But I'm comfortable with the Saints on the spread at -1. at -3, and Cleveland on the money line as well. I got a couple others on the way out. People are hanging out here. Adam Wainwright over 5.5 hits allowed. Adam Wainwright. This is going to be I think it's a free bet of the day for Gross. I think we're both on that. When Gross has a bet that I like, I feel pretty good about it. But Wainwright has allowed 6+ hits in 17 of his 20 starts this season. He has an alarming high contact rate, not striking anybody out. His strikeout prop is 2.5. So it's up against Milwaukee. They don't have the best offense, but the Cardinals have been just keeping him out there. Wainwright, right? Just this is probably his last year. Just keep him out there, and he's getting knocked around all over the place. The other prop that I have here, the Houston Astros, at over 4.5 runs at -110, up against John Means. Pretty shaky first outing. He allowed 3 runs on 5 hits, 2 homers, only through 5 innings. Didn't walk anybody, but only had the 1 strikeout. Now he's up against this Astros team that they make a lot of contact. 63%, very small sample size, but a 63% fly ball rate in that first start. Typically a fly ball pitcher anyways, and not really a big strikeout guy. Plus, he only has 13 innings on the resume over the last 2 years. And then the final one that I have here for you guys is Julio Rodriguez at over 1.5 total bases. Julio, man, this guy has been awesome. Against Southpaws, he's going to be up against Sears today of the Oakland Athletics. Against lefties, he's slashing 331, 515, 883 with a 374 WOBA and a 144 WRC plus. He's got 27 extra base hits since the calendar turned to August. He hit 429 in August. He's hitting 296 here in September. And Sears has a 79% contact rate for his career. My one fear with this bet is that he walks a bunch of dudes because he's been walking guys lately, but over 1.5 total bases at -105. That's at BetMGM. And also, Sears has been, for whatever reason, you would think that your pitcher would be better at Oakland because it's super a spacious ballpark there, but his numbers, his ratios are much worse at home than on the road. So the over 5.5 hits allowed for Wainwright, the over 4.5 runs for the Houston Astros, over 1.5 total bases for Julio Rodriguez. Go Packers, go! That was the shot there. At the Lions, daily handle, Jalen Warren, baby. Just swipe. Joe Buck said he's playing now. Who's playing? Cooper? I still like Jalen Warren. Oh yeah. As for Cooper, for those that have Cooper, and if he's not going to play, there's a lot of backup options here. Donovan Peoples, I would rank him: Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Allen Robinson. So Joe Buck is breaking news on the Pat McAfee show. He says Amari Cooper is going to play. I suppose if you have him, you roll him out there because it doesn't seem to be too many options, right? If there was Elijah Moore, if you had the choice between him and Elijah Moore, I probably would do Elijah Moore, but I would rank them in case he doesn't play. Elijah Moore, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Then I would go to Allen Robinson, Adam Thielen, Jonathan Mingo, and deeper leagues like Calvin Austin, deep. Freiermuth may be out there. I'd probably put him 4th on that list. Go with the wide receivers first. Don't be surprised if Allen Robinson is another 4 or 5 grabs here in this game. We got to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to hang out. We will talk to you guys very, very soon. Any questions, hit me up at Chris Meany. Good luck on the field. Let's get some of those prop bets right. Let's most of all get the Saints -3 so George can eat tonight. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Cheers.